feel the power, man of the hour. Got my core ready and the skills to devour. I came to battle, who wanna battle? Spin it, now flip it in the battle. Make it launch. Make it launch. I came to wreck it. Yo, I'm launching out. I got the whole world spinning out. Yo, I'm launching out. I got the whole world spinning out.
Welcome to the dark and twisted timeline of Jeffrey Epstein, a story that reads like a Hollywood thriller, except it's disturbingly real. I'm going to take you through the first half of his life, and trust me, you'll want to stay tuned for this one. Picture this. It's 1953 in working-class Brooklyn. Jeffrey Epstein enters the world. Born to Jewish parents in the Coney Island neighborhood, nothing about his humble beginnings suggested he'd become one of the most notorious figures of our time. Young Jeffrey was actually quite the brainiac. He skipped 2 grades at Lafayette High School and was known as the math genius, though his former classmates would later describe him as the kid who was always working an angle, always trying to find shortcuts to success. Here's where things get interesting. At just 20 years old, without even finishing his college degree, Epstein somehow landed a teaching job at the prestigious Dalton School in Manhattan. Let that sink in. A college dropout teaching at one of New York's most elite private schools, where tuition costs more than most people's yearly salary. But here's the juicy part. It wasn't his mathematical brilliance that would shape his future. It was who he met at Dalton. Among the parents of his students was Alan Ace Greenberg, the CEO of Bear Stearns. And this, my friends, is where Epstein's life took its first major turn. In 1976, Epstein made a career move that would raise eyebrows even today. He left teaching to join Bear Stearns as a lowly junior assistant to a floor trader. Within 4 years, and this is where things get really suspicious, he became a limited partner. The speed of his rise was unprecedented. By the 1980s, Epstein had established his own consulting firm, Intercontinental Assets Group Inc., supposedly helping clients recover stolen money from fraudulent brokers. The irony here is almost too much to handle, considering what we now know about his later activities. But the real transformation came in the late 1980s when he met Stephen Hoffenberg. Together, they worked on several projects, including an unsuccessful attempt to take over Pan American Airways. What most people didn't know at the time was that Hoffenberg's company, Towers Financial Corporation, was running one of the biggest Ponzi schemes in American history. This brings us to perhaps the most mysterious chapter of Epstein's early life, his relationship with retail billionaire Leslie Wexner in the late 1980s. Wexner effectively gave Epstein power of attorney over his entire fortune. Think about that. One of America's wealthiest men handed virtually complete control of his finances to a guy with no college degree and a questionable Wall Street track record. By the early 1990s, Epstein had transformed himself into a self-proclaimed billionaire financial advisor, though nobody could quite explain how he made his money. He purchased the largest private residence in Manhattan, a 7-story mansion on East 71st Street, and started rubbing shoulders with the global elite. And this, my friends, is where we'll pause our timeline. The foundation was set for what would become one of the most shocking and disturbing cases in modern history. The question that haunts this entire first half of his life remains: how did a college dropout from Brooklyn engineer such a meteoric rise to wealth and power? Stay tuned for part 2, because believe me, things are about to get even darker. Welcome back to part 2 of the Jeffrey Epstein saga. And trust me, this is where things get really dark and twisted. By the early 2000s, Epstein had built an empire of influence, but what many didn't know was his alleged deep connection to Israeli intelligence. According to former Israeli spy Ari Ben-Menashe, Epstein was recruited by Israel's military intelligence in the 1980s to run honey trap operations, essentially using compromising situations to blackmail powerful people. His mansion in New York was wired with hidden cameras, capturing every moment of his high-profile guests' visits. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about power and leverage. And boy, did he have leverage. We're talking presidents, princes, prime ministers, and billionaires. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Robert Maxwell, the father of Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's partner in crime, was also allegedly working for Israeli intelligence before his mysterious death in 1991. Coincidence? In this story, there are no coincidences. Epstein's Black Book contained over 1,000 names of the world's elite. Think about that. 1,000 powerful people potentially compromised, potentially being manipulated. This wasn't just a predator's contact list, it was a weapon. According to investigative journalists, Epstein's connection to Israel went beyond casual friendship. He reportedly helped arms dealers connect with Israeli military intelligence and even claimed to work with Mossad. His private island, Little St. James, wasn't just a paradise getaway. It was essentially a blackmail factory. By 2006, the facade began to crack. Palm Beach police started investigating allegations of sexual abuse. But mysteriously, Epstein got an incredibly lenient plea deal in 2008. Alexander Acosta, the prosecutor at the time, reportedly said he was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone. The next decade saw Epstein continue his high-flying lifestyle, seemingly untouchable. That is until 2019, when everything finally came crashing down. He was arrested on July 6th at Teterboro Airport, and this time there would be no escape. Or would there? His death in his cell on August 10, 2019, sparked countless conspiracy theories. The cameras malfunctioned, the guards fell asleep, and somehow one of the most high-profile prisoners in America managed to die under mysterious circumstances. But perhaps the most chilling part of this story isn't what we know. It's what we don't know. The full extent of Epstein's intelligence connections, the contents of those video recordings, the real reach of his influence network, these secrets died with him. Or did they? Some say his death wasn't the end of the story, but rather a way to ensure certain secrets stayed buried forever. The question remains, how many powerful people breathed a sigh of relief when Jeffrey Epstein died? And more importantly, how many of them are still being controlled by the information he gathered? This isn't just a story about a wealthy predator. It's about power, intelligence agencies, and how secrets can be worth more than gold. Epstein's legacy isn't just one of crimes against innocent victims. It's a stark reminder of how deep the rabbit hole of power and influence really goes.